Picture, if you will, a world before the internet, a world where information traveled slowly, where messages journeyed by telegraph wire or by post, and where the idea of global digital connectivity was still a distant dream. The path from that world to our interconnected present did not begin with a single leap, but with a series of inventive steps, each one laying a crucial piece of the foundation for what would become the internet. The earliest echoes of electronic communication can be traced back to the 1840s with the invention of the telegraph. Though primitive by today's standards, this device established the principle that information could be transmitted across great distances using electrical signals. More than a century later, the evolution of computing hardware advanced significantly with the delivery of the UNIVAC-1 in 1951, the first American commercial computer. This machine, and those that followed, provided the computational power required for the complex networking that would eventually link the globe. Yet the seeds of the Internet's birth were sown not only in hardware, but also in the fertile grounds of scientific collaboration and visionary thinking. In the aftermath of World War II, Vannevar Bush played a pivotal role in fostering cooperation among government, science, and business, helping to institutionalize the kind of collaborative environment essential for large-scale technological innovation. This spirit of cooperation came to fruition in 1958 when the United States established the Advanced Research Projects Agency, ARPA, now known as DARPA, in direct response to the Soviet Union's launch of Sputnik. ARPA's mission was clear: to fund and coordinate research that could ensure American scientific and technological leadership, especially under the pressures of the Cold War. Within this context, a remarkable constellation of thinkers began to imagine new ways for computers to share information. Among them was J.C.R. Licklider, whose early 1960s vision reached far beyond the technology of his day. Licklider dreamed of what he called an intergalactic computer network, a vast web of interconnected machines that would allow people to access and share information seamlessly, regardless of distance. Though the phrase was whimsical, the idea behind it was profound, inspiring a generation of researchers to pursue the goal of networked computing. At the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, experiments with time-sharing in the late 1950s and early 1960s demonstrated that computers could serve multiple users simultaneously, a radical departure from the batch processing of earlier machines. This concept of interactive computing set the stage for more ambitious networking projects. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic and in the United States, independent lines of research were converging on a similar breakthrough: how to move information from one computer to another efficiently and reliably. The answer came in the form of packet switching, a revolutionary approach to telecommunications. Instead of sending data as a single, continuous stream, packet switching broke information into small, manageable packets, each of which could travel independently across a network and be reassembled at its destination. This concept was independently invented in the early to mid-1960s by Paul Baran at R&D in the United States and Donald Davies at the National Physical Laboratory in the United Kingdom. Their work showed that packet switching was not only efficient but also resilient, a crucial consideration in an era when Cold War strategists worried about the vulnerability of centralized communication systems to nuclear attack. If one route on a network was destroyed, packets could simply find another path, ensuring that communication could continue even in the face of disaster. Packet switching was more than a clever engineering solution. It became the conceptual backbone of the Internet. Building on these insights, ARPA initiated a project to create a wide-area computer network that would embody these principles. The result was ARPANET, established in 1969 by the Advanced Research Projects Agency, ARPA, of the United States Department of Defense. As the first operational packet switching network, ARPANET marked a turning point in the history of communication technology. That year, under the guidance of Leonard Kleinrock, the first messages were sent between networked sites, a modest but momentous achievement that signaled the dawn of a new era. ARPANET's design was unlike anything that had come before. Rather than relying on a central hub, it used distributed control, meaning no single point of failure could bring the network down. This architecture, inspired by the work of Baran and Davies, was purpose-built for resilience. The first ARPANET connection linked 4 computers, or nodes, located at UCLA, Stanford, UC Santa Barbara, and the University of Utah. This small network proved the concept, and ARPANET expanded rapidly in the following years. Behind this transformation stood a host of pioneering figures. Bob Taylor and Larry Roberts played central roles in turning Licklider's vision into reality. Steve Crocker, John Postel, Bob Kahn, and Vint Cerf, among others, each made critical contributions, from developing protocols to managing the technical and social complexities of a growing network. Notably, it was Bob Kahn and Vint Cerf who, in 1973, laid out the key ideas that would allow different networks to interconnect, creating the possibility of a truly global system. In the early 1970s, ARPANET became fully operational, connecting more institutions and researchers across the United States. As the network grew, so did the need for a standardized set of rules to govern how data moved from one place to another. This led to the development and eventual implementation of the TCP/IP protocol suite, a set of instructions that allowed disparate networks to communicate seamlessly. TCP/IP was more than just a technical specification, it was the software glue that held the emerging Internet together. The adoption of TCP sub-IP on January 1, 1983, is widely regarded as the official birthday of the Internet. On that day, ARPANET and other connected networks made the transition to this new standard, enabling them to link together and exchange data using a common language. The Internet, in the form we recognize today, was born from this act of unification. But the story did not end there. As ARPANET expanded, it was eventually joined by NSF-NET in 1986, a project of the National Science Foundation. NSF-NET became the backbone for the Internet's explosive growth in the 1990s, opening the doors to universities, businesses, and eventually, the public. Other technologies played supporting roles. Systems like X25 and IBM's SNAA standardized packet switching and data transmission before the Internet era, setting important precedents for global connectivity. Throughout its early evolution, the Internet was shaped by the interplay of government funding, academic research, and private industry innovation. There was no single inventor, no solitary genius who can claim sole credit. Instead, what emerged was the result of a broad, collaborative effort, one that drew on the talents of Vint Cerf, Bob Kahn, Donald Davies, Paul Baran, Bob Metcalf, Louis Posen, Steve Crocker, Ray Tomlinson, John Postel, and many others. Today, the Internet stands as a testament to the power of shared vision, rigorous scientific inquiry, and persistent collaboration. Its origins reflect decades of experimentation, debate, and adaptation. Even as we marvel at the speed and reach of modern digital communication, it is worth remembering that the journey began with small steps, a handful of computers, a few dedicated researchers, and the bold idea that information should flow freely, resiliently, and universally. The Internet's birth was not marked by a single moment, but by a gradual, collective movement that forever changed the way we connect and communicate. Imagine, for a moment, the journey your message takes when you send an email to a friend halfway across the world. You type a few lines, press send, and in seconds, your words have zipped across continents, traversed oceans, and arrived at their destination. The seamlessness of this exchange hides the immense complexity humming beneath the surface. The Internet is not a single monolithic entity, but a network of networks, millions of them, public and private, large and small, all intricately interwoven. Each device that connects, a laptop in a New York apartment, a server farm in Singapore, a smartphone in Nairobi, becomes part of this vast living web. At its core, the Internet relies on a scientific principle that revolutionized communication: packet switching. This method takes every email, web page, or video you send and divides it into tiny, manageable pieces called packets. Each packet consists of a header and a payload. The header is like a meticulously addressed envelope, containing crucial information such as the source and destination IP addresses, and a hop count that tallies how many routers the packet has passed through. The payload is the actual piece of your message, the fragment of data making its way to your friend. Packet switching allows these packets to travel independently, finding their own paths through the global maze of networks. Some may take the express route, others a more winding journey, but all eventually converge at the destination, where they are reassembled, often in milliseconds, into the coherent message you sent. This approach makes the Internet highly efficient, maximizing the use of existing bandwidth and remarkably resilient. If a part of the network goes down, packets can simply detour around the problem, ensuring your message still gets through. To orchestrate this symphony of data, the Internet depends on a carefully designed, layered architecture. Think of this as a stack of building blocks, each layer serving a distinct purpose while interacting seamlessly with those above and below it. The beauty of this design lies in its modularity. Engineers can tinker with one layer, improving or repairing it without disturbing the others. This layered approach not only enhances efficiency, but also makes troubleshooting more manageable, as each layer can be examined independently to diagnose faults. Two models have served as foundational blueprints for understanding how the Internet's layers function: the OSI, Open Systems, Interconnection model, and the TCP/IP model, the OSI, model, introduced in 1984, envisions 7 layers, ranging from the physical transmission of bits at the bottom up through data link, network, transport, session, presentation, and finally to the application layer at the top, where programs like browsers and email clients operate. While this comprehensive model remains a cornerstone for teaching and conceptualizing network design, the Internet in practice uses a more streamlined framework, the TCP/IP model. The TCP/IP model, developed through the pioneering work of Vint Cerf and Bob Kahn in the 1970s, organizes communication into 4 or 5 abstraction layers, depending on interpretation. The most commonly referenced version comprises the application, transport, network interface, and hardware layers. Each has a well-defined role. The application layer is where user-facing software, your web browser for example, resides. The transport layer ensures that data is transmitted reliably and in the correct order, while the network layer handles addressing and routing, making sure each packet finds its way to the correct destination. Below that, the network interface and hardware layers manage the nuts and bolts of transmitting electrical, optical, or wireless signals over the physical infrastructure. Protocols, agreed-upon rules and standards, are the glue that binds these layers together. The TCP/IP suite, which became the official standard for the ARPANET in 1983, specifies exactly how data is packaged, addressed, transmitted, routed, and received. TCP, Transmission Control Protocol, ensures that packets arrive intact and in order, reassembling them into a seamless message. IP, Internet Protocol, handles the addressing and routing, making sure each packet knows where it is going and how to get there. The development and adoption of TCP/IP, incorporating ideas from earlier systems like the French CYCLADES network, allowed the Internet to scale and adapt, accommodating new technologies and explosive growth without needing to redesign the entire system from scratch. The physical journey of data across the Internet is just as fascinating. Information can travel through copper cables, where it is transmitted as electrical signals, through slender strands of optical fiber, where pulses of light carry data at incredible speeds, or through the air itself using radio waves for wireless communication. Network topology, the arrangement of hosts, switches, routers, and cables, determines the pathways along which data can travel. In densely interconnected regions, data might have dozens of possible routes. In remote areas, the path may be more circuitous. Routers are the Internet's master dispatchers. These specialized devices examine the destination address of each packet and consult their routing tables, vast databases of network paths to determine the most efficient route. Protocols like OSPF, Open Shortest Path First, and BGP, Border Gateway Protocol, help routers share information about network conditions, such as congestion or outages, so they can continuously adjust and optimize the flow of traffic. Routers not only bridge different networks, but also manage the internal traffic of organizations and data centers, ensuring that information flows smoothly within and between systems. Switches, meanwhile, operate within local networks. Imagine an office full of computers and printers, all connected by a switch. When a computer sends data, the switch ensures that only the intended recipient receives the message, reducing unnecessary traffic and improving security. Together, switches and routers form the backbone of every network, from a single Wi-Fi hotspot to the sprawling infrastructure of a global Internet Service Provider, ISP. ISPs themselves are the gatekeepers of the Internet, connecting local networks, homes, schools, businesses to the wider world. At the highest level, powerful ISPs interconnect with one another, creating a resilient web that bridges continents and countries. The structure of the Internet includes not only these ISPs but also domain name servers, which translate human-friendly addresses like example.com into the numerical IP. Addresses that computers use, as well as network access points and massive backbone cables stretching beneath city streets and across the ocean floor. The ongoing development and oversight of the Internet's architecture and protocols is managed in part by organizations such as the Internet Society, founded in 1992. Their work ensures that as new technologies emerge and the Internet continues to expand, the rules and standards governing communication remain flexible, scalable, and secure. Every time you stream a video, check the weather, or send a message, you are participating in this intricate dance of packets and protocols, cables and switches, routers and servers. The science behind the Internet's operation is a marvel of engineering, a triumph of layered architecture and standardized communication that enables seamless, instantaneous information exchange on a global scale. Behind the scenes, millions of packets race across a labyrinth of networks, guided by the invisible hand of protocols and devices, all so that, to you, the experience remains effortlessly simple. Imagine a world where nearly 7 out of every 10 people wake up, reach for a device, and in seconds connect to a boundless network that links continents, cultures, and ideas. This is not a vision of tomorrow, but the reality of the internet today. As of 2024, approximately 5.5 billion people are online, an astonishing 68% of the world's population. Yet this sweeping digital transformation is not evenly distributed. 2.6 billion individuals still remain on the other side of the digital divide, their lives shaped by the absence of dependable connectivity. The scale of today's internet is staggering in both reach and diversity. In high-income countries, internet usage is almost universal. 93% of people in these nations are online, navigating a digital landscape that has become inseparable from daily life. In contrast, in low-income countries, just 27% of the population has internet access. The difference is more than a matter of convenience. It is a question of opportunity, education, and inclusion. In some regions, especially parts of Africa, less than 30% of people can rely on a stable internet connection, and barriers of affordability, accessibility, and usability persist. The digital divide is further complicated by social factors, such as gender. In many places, women and girls face significant hurdles in gaining access to the digital world, a gap that highlights the broader justice issues woven into the fabric of internet connectivity. Despite these challenges, the pace of expansion is relentless. Projections suggest that by 2025, nearly 6 billion people, or 74% of the global population, will be connected. Asia, with its vast and youthful populations, leads as the world's largest digital community, followed by the United States. In some countries, internet penetration is so deep that 99% or more of citizens are online, with Nordic nations setting the standard for near-total connectivity. In America, 91% of consumers report reliable internet access, a figure that speaks to the service's entrenchment in everyday routines but also hints at the pockets of inequality that persist even in the most developed economies. What do all these billions of people do once they are online? The internet is not a monolithic service, but a sprawling ecosystem supporting a dazzling variety of experiences and tools. The most popular online activity is social networking, an arena where personal updates, global movements, and viral trends intermingle in real time. Social media platforms have become modern public squares, influencing culture, politics, and the flow of information on a scale previously unimaginable. The power of these platforms is such that access to social media is now restricted in certain countries, affecting billions and sparking debates about free expression and information control. Beyond the social sphere, the internet supports an ever-growing array of services that touch nearly every aspect of modern life. Web browsing remains a foundational activity, providing access to a universe of information, entertainment, and commerce. Streaming services deliver movies, music, and live events to screens of every size, transforming how people consume culture and connect with distant happenings. Cloud computing, though perhaps less visible to the average user, has quietly revolutionized the way businesses and individuals access computing resources. With cloud services, organizations can scale their operations up or down on demand, deploy new products, and analyze data from anywhere on the globe. This flexibility translates to cost savings, greater efficiency, and the ability to innovate without the heavy investment once required for physical infrastructure. The internet's impact, however, extends far beyond the technical marvel of connecting billions or powering cloud-based supercomputers. On a societal level, this network has democratized access to knowledge. Where once information was closely guarded by libraries, universities, or state institutions, it now flows freely to anyone with a connection. This newfound accessibility has reshaped education, enabling remote learning and bringing world-class resources to classrooms and homes that, only a generation ago, were isolated by geography or circumstance. In healthcare, telemedicine, and online information empower individuals to make informed decisions and overcome traditional barriers to care. The digital economy, born and nurtured on the internet, has changed how people work, collaborate, and participate in markets. New professions and industries have emerged, old ones have adapted, and the boundaries of the workplace have blurred as remote work becomes a viable and sometimes preferable alternative to traditional office life. For many, the internet is now the primary gateway to government services, financial tools, and civic engagement. Yet this transformation is not without its costs and complexities. The digital divide, as sharp as ever, remains a central challenge. Differences in access are not limited to infrastructure, such as the stark contrast in 5G coverage, with 84% in high-income countries and just 4% in low-income regions, but also extend to the skills and literacy required to navigate digital spaces. School connectivity, for example, mirrors these national and global disparities, reinforcing cycles of disadvantage for those left offline. Organizations like the Edison Alliance have made meaningful progress by connecting over 1 billion people to digital services since 2021, but the journey toward universal access is ongoing. The Internet's influence on individual lives is profound, touching psychological, cognitive, and social dimensions. On one hand, it offers unprecedented opportunities for connection, learning, and self-expression. On the other, it introduces new risks, exposure to misinformation, online harassment, and the subtle pressures of curated digital identities. The effects are not uniform. The same platform that fosters community for one person may intensify isolation for another. These individualized impacts are the subject of ongoing research and debate as societies grapple with the double-edged nature of digital life. At the organizational and societal level, the Internet has ushered in the era of big data and datafication. The sheer volume and variety of information generated and analyzed online present both opportunities and dilemmas. In education, data-driven approaches can personalize learning and improve outcomes, but they also raise questions about privacy and surveillance. In business, harnessing big data can lead to innovation and efficiency, but managing and securing this information remains a challenge. As the Internet continues to evolve, its influence grows more complex and far-reaching. It is a tool for empowerment and a source of division, a driver of economic growth and a mirror to society's inequalities. Adaptive policies and thoughtful stewardship are required to harness its benefits while mitigating its risks. This ongoing evolution demands vigilance, creativity, and a commitment to the principle that the digital world should be open and accessible to all. So, the story of the Internet today is not just about numbers or technology, it is about the intertwined destinies of billions. It is about the promise of inclusion and the reality of division, the freedom to connect and the need to adapt. As the world moves toward an even more connected future, the choices made now will shape not only how people browse, stream, and share, but how societies learn, grow, and imagine what comes next. The Internet, once the exclusive domain of researchers and engineers, now reaches into nearly every aspect of human life. As the network has expanded in complexity and scope, the challenges threatening its integrity, safety, and potential have grown as well. In 2024, the Internet stands at a crossroads shaped by extraordinary innovation, yet beset by risks that are more numerous and severe than ever before. The scale of digital threats today would have been unimaginable in the Internet's early years. Every day, more than 600 million cyberattacks target individuals, businesses, and even entire nations. These attacks range from relatively simple phishing emails that trick users into revealing personal information, to highly sophisticated ransomware that can cripple entire supply chains, or deepfakes that spread misinformation with a realism once reserved for science fiction. In just the first half of 2024, malware designed to infect Internet of Things devices surged by 107%, while distributed denial of service or DDoS attacks increased by 46%, reaching roughly 8 million incidents in 6 months. Ransomware attacks now strike major organizations 20 to 25 times daily, with 59% of surveyed groups reporting they have been impacted. The financial toll is staggering. The average cost of a single data breach is $4.88 million, and cumulative losses from cyber incidents have quadrupled since 2017. This environment breeds unease among individuals and organizations alike. The threat landscape is not only more dangerous, but also harder to navigate. Attacks ignore borders and boundaries. They can be carried out by lone actors or coordinated groups, targeting everyone from the world's largest corporations to small businesses, hospitals, and government agencies. The sophistication of these attacks is fueled, in part, by the very technologies that make the Internet so versatile and powerful. Artificial intelligence, for example, is used both to launch and defend against attacks, creating a digital arms race that is constantly evolving. The implications extend far beyond financial loss or technical disruption. Ransomware and DDoS attacks can undermine the stability of entire economies. Deepfakes and coordinated misinformation campaigns threaten the fabric of democracy by eroding trust in institutions and the media. The scale and persistence of these threats force us to confront difficult questions about how to secure a system originally built for openness, not defense. If security is one pillar of the Internet's future, privacy is another, and here too, the landscape is shifting rapidly. As artificial intelligence and massive data collection become woven into daily life, concerns about digital privacy have taken on new urgency. In the United States, a significant majority, 62%, now believe it is impossible to avoid companies collecting data about them. An even larger share, 81%, feel that the risks of this data collection outweigh the benefits. This erosion of confidence in online privacy is not limited to any one country. It is a global sentiment, with people everywhere becoming more aware of how their digital lives leave them exposed. The stakes are especially high when it comes to the data used by artificial intelligence systems. These systems rely on vast collections of personal, behavioral, and sometimes deeply sensitive information. The promise of artificial intelligence to deliver more personalized services, accelerate breakthroughs in medicine and material science, and power smarter, more efficient systems comes with a host of compliance and ethical challenges. How should sensitive data be handled? Who decides what is private and what is not? Are current protections adequate in a world where data can be copied, analyzed, and combined in ways that are nearly impossible to track? These questions are not just technical. They strike at the heart of what it means to live in a digital society, and there is growing recognition that existing laws and norms may be insufficient for the age of artificial intelligence. As the internet becomes more integral to daily life, the sense of digital vulnerability grows. People worry not only about hackers and data breaches, but also about the steady, almost invisible erosion of privacy that comes from routine online activity. The feeling that privacy is slipping away, that it is no longer something we can count on, defines the current moment. Security and privacy risks are not distributed equally. The ongoing digital divide means that while billions are online, a third of humanity remains disconnected. This divide is not just about hardware or broadband infrastructure, it is fundamentally a matter of justice. Those without reliable internet access are often excluded from economic opportunities, quality education, and civic engagement. The lines of division are drawn by geography, income, gender, and other social factors, and are compounded by differences in digital literacy and motivation. Bridging this gap requires more than laying cables or building cell towers. It means addressing the underlying barriers that keep people offline, whether economic, educational, or cultural. It also means recognizing that the ability to use the internet effectively is as important as access itself. Challenges like discerning misinformation, navigating complex interfaces, and understanding privacy settings can be daunting, especially as online content becomes more voluminous and sophisticated. The rise of artificial intelligence-driven content moderation, while promising in some respects, introduces new ethical dilemmas. Who programs these systems, and whose values do they reflect? How do we balance the need to control harmful material with the imperative to preserve freedom of expression and avoid bias? Amid these challenges, the pace of technological change shows no sign of slowing. Artificial intelligence is accelerating scientific discovery, opening new frontiers in fields from biology to material science. Quantum computing, still in its early stages, holds the potential to revolutionize encryption and data processing, though it also introduces new risks for security and privacy. Blockchain technology offers possibilities for more secure and transparent transactions, and the ongoing rollout of fifth generation promises to reshape how and where we connect. Each wave of innovation brings fresh opportunities, but also new threats and profound questions about governance, equity, and control. As the internet evolves, the need for robust security and thoughtful governance becomes ever more urgent. The challenges of the next era will not be solved by technology alone. They will require new forms of international cooperation, updated legal frameworks, and a commitment to inclusive design that puts people, not just profit or efficiency, at the center. The future of the internet will be shaped by our willingness to confront hard truths about security, privacy, and equity, and by our ability to imagine and build systems that are both innovative and just. The internet story has always been one of ingenuity and adaptation, of overcoming obstacles through collaboration and creative problem-solving. Today's challenges are daunting but not insurmountable. If history is any guide, the same spirit that sparked the internet's birth and guided its growth can help us chart a future that is more secure, more private, and more inclusive. The promise of the internet as a force for connection, discovery, and empowerment depends on our collective resolve to meet the tests of our time.